At the charity gala, my CEO wife exchanged a few extra words with her male secretary. I turned around and left, instructed the lawyer to draft the divorce agreement, and froze all her bank cards. Then I pulled out my phone and sent her a message, divorce. She received the message and immediately called back, furious. What the hell is wrong with you? Just because I talked a bit more with Jason. Yes, just because you talked a bit more with him. Chapter 1. The charity gala was full of prominent guests. My CEO wife, Susanna, fluttered through the crowd like a social butterfly. She formally introduced her male secretary Jason, who had only been on the job for 6 months. This project fund wouldn't have been secured without my secretary, she said. That's the reason this charity gala is happening at all. Though he's only been here half a year, his contributions to the company are huge. I've decided to promote him to general manager. From now on, he'll be my most trusted partner at work. Gasps of surprise rippled through the room, followed by polite applause and praise like, so talented for someone so young. Jason wore a faint, polite smile and thanked everyone with grace and poise. Standing together, raising their glasses toward the guests, they looked so well-matched, it felt more like their wedding than a charity event. Watching the smile on Susanna's face, my heart shattered. That project. It was me who drank myself into a stomach hemorrhage just to close the deal. Jason merely followed me around, handed over a contract and a pen, and now, Susanna had twisted the narrative into his achievement. Worse, she promoted him to a position equal to mine. I said nothing, just gave a bitter smile and walked out. Once outside the ballroom, I pulled out my phone and called my lawyer. I told him to draft a divorce agreement. Back then, Susanna was just a girl who couldn't even afford tuition. She was one of 3 underprivileged students our family had sponsored. We fell in love during college, and in the end, I chose to marry her. I loved her drive, her independence. I thought we'd be happy together after marriage. Turns out, that was just my wishful thinking. Just as I stepped out for a breath of fresh air, someone from the event came up respectfully. President Law, it's your turn to speak on stage. I stubbed out my cigarette and followed him back into the hall. Susanna was still standing beside Jason, making me look like a total fool. I took the mic and looked directly at Susanna. I only want to say one thing to my wife. Before I even finished the sentence, the room erupted with admiration and teasing compliments. President Law can't stop bragging about his wife, even in public. 10 years of marriage, and they're still in love. Enviable. Yes, 10 years of marriage. Everyone knew I had a loving wife, but no one knew who she was. Because Susanna insisted that her success had nothing to do with me, she went out of her way to keep our relationship separate in the company. Looking at her proud and confident smile, I spoke calmly. Susanna, I want a divorce. Her smile froze instantly. She stared at me in disbelief. The room fell into uneasy murmurs. Shocked gazes darted between Susanna, Jason, and me. Only now did everyone realize Susanna was my wife. Trying to keep her composure, Susanna took 2 steps toward me and whispered sharply, Marco, have you lost your mind? You already outed me as your wife in public, and now you're creating drama with divorce talk. Go tell them right now you were drunk and talking nonsense. Whenever she spoke to me, Susanna always sounded like she was doing me a favor, superior, condescending. But just tonight, I saw how she spoke to Jason. Gentle, bashful, soft-voiced and flirtatious, like she was the one trying to win him over. Even her eyes were overflowing with unspoken affection. Guests began trying to smooth things over. President Law, aren't you overreacting a bit? Chairwoman Lin was just introducing a promising young partner, not a big deal. 10 years of marriage, and you're divorcing over something so trivial. Yes, 10 years, but only now did I finally get it. All those years of attending events with her, Susanna never once introduced me with pride like that. She always distanced herself from me and dismissed my achievements. It had always been like that. And 6 months ago, when Susanna brought Jason into the company, I finally understood. Susanna had a crush. Even though I was her husband, Jason was still the one she had always longed for. Chapter 2. I'm not drunk. And I'm not talking nonsense. I stared at the irritation in Susanna's eyes with absolute clarity. I want a divorce. Susanna looked like she was about to lose her mind, but still kept up appearances and explained stiffly. Fine. Maybe I did ignore you a little earlier, but I didn't mean to introduce Jason to them. Can you stop being so unreasonable? Are you seriously jealous of him? Jason stepped forward too, feigning innocence. President, maybe there's been a misunderstanding. Susanna and I are completely clean. I ignored him, still looking at Susanna. The divorce agreement will be delivered to you once it's ready. Then I turned and strode out of the banquet hall. Saying it so openly, I had never felt such relief. It was raining lightly outside. I sat in my car, soaking in a peace I hadn't felt in years. Suddenly, the ringtone cut through the silence of the car cabin. I glanced at the caller ID and picked up. I told you long ago, Susanna has someone else in her heart. So, what now? Want to choose me instead? I would never betray you. It was Miriam on the line, another of the underprivileged students my family had sponsored. She'd always been bold, even confessed her feelings to me before, but I liked Susanna back then, and never gave Miriam a second thought. I squeezed the phone and stared coldly out the window. Raindrops streamed down the glass like threads. All right. Miriam caught her breath, then her voice lit up with excitement. Then it's a deal. The day you get your divorce certificate will be the day we get our marriage certificate. Oh, and I left you a surprise. Don't forget to check it. The call ended. I was feeling calm again and drove home. The house was dark, no lights on. I relied on memory to find my way back to the master bedroom. As I pulled back the covers to lie down, my hand brushed against something thin and soft. I switched on the light. What I was holding was a man's underwear. There were dried stains on it. I threw the briefs away in disgust and looked up. This wasn't the bedroom I knew anymore. All traces of me had been replaced by another man's presence. On the nightstand was a framed photo of Susanna and Jason. The wedding photo of Susanna and me that once hung on the wall. It had been tossed carelessly in the corner, gathering dust. The walls were painted gray-green, my most hated color. But Jason's favorite. My fists clenched. So I had been betrayed countless times already. I had been away on business trips often. When I came back once and tried to return to the master bedroom, Susanna stopped me. I'm preparing a surprise for you. It's not ready yet. Go sleep in the guest room for now. I believed her. I actually thought she was doing something special for me, and waited, expectantly, every day. Never did I imagine she had already been hooking up with Jason. All those sweet words, just a lie to string me along. I grabbed the framed photo and smashed it against the floor. Just as I was about to leave the room, I heard a noise from outside. I opened the door, and there they were, Susanna and Jason, holding each other at the entrance. Susanna, are you really not going to try talking to Marco? Jason asked. Susanna replied casually. Forget him. Who knows what kind of tantrum he's throwing now? He'll be fine in a few days. He's obsessed with me. There's no way he'll actually go through with a divorce. If I didn't want full control of the company, I would have divorced him ages ago. Jason, thank God you're with me. I can't take it anymore. Just the thought of him touching me makes my skin crawl. I heard Jason's soft chuckle, and then their unapologetic kissing. Good girl, Susanna, just a little longer. The divorce has to leave him with nothing. Chapter 3. Living off my wealth, and you still want me to leave with nothing. Hearing their voices, I couldn't hold back any longer and stormed out. They were still tangled together in an intimate mess when I threw a punch straight into Jason's face. Marco, what are you doing? Susanna shrieked. Veins bulged in my neck. I had never imagined the woman I loved for 10 years could become this unrecognizable. You too, shameless cheating couple. Jason clutched his cheek in pain, unable to speak. Susanna immediately stepped in to defend him. How dare you hit Jason? Do you even have any respect for the law? Apologize to him now. Apologize. He's not even worth it. I spat viciously at the ground near them. You disgust me, both of you. Susanna, the divorce agreement will be in your hands soon. You're the one leaving with nothing. Susanna clearly hadn't expected me to be this firm. A flicker of regret crossed her eyes. She stepped forward, reaching for my arm. Marco, I was drunk. I thought he was you. Before she could finish, I yanked my arm away. Get lost. You make me sick. And with that, I slammed the door and walked out. This house reeked. Every inch of it made my skin crawl. The next morning, I arrived at the office early. As soon as I entered, I heard murmurs about Jason being in the project department. President Law. You might want to check it out, my secretary said hesitantly. Just as I reached the door, I heard voices from inside. Jason's tone was full of smugness. I'm the one who landed that huge deal. If not for me, this project wouldn't have happened at all. Marco's just jealous. He even hit me. Look at my lip. It's still bruised. The others, not knowing the truth, chimed in with sympathy. Marco went too far. Just because he's been here longer doesn't mean he should bully new people. Isn't he only a VP because of his connections with Chairwoman Lynn? Old friends and all that. Has Chairwoman Lynn been told? She should definitely step in for you. Susanna was there too. Her voice was cold and decisive. This matter will be dealt with fairly. Jason deserves justice. We must not allow toxic jealousy to take root in this company. Standing just outside, hearing their mockery and betrayal, I couldn't hold back my disappointment. I'd worked here 10 years. Countless deals I closed were credited to Susanna. That's how she climbed her way to CEO. And now, she wanted to punish me, for the sake of her lover. I gave a cold laugh and pushed the door open. Oh, and how exactly do you plan to punish me? Susanna's gaze flickered for a moment but she kept her tone stern. You're suspended from all your duties. Time off to reflect. Jason stood behind her, failing to hide the satisfaction in his smirk. Marco, I'm the one who sealed that deal. I'm the reason they signed. You couldn't even handle it. All you did was drink yourself into the hospital. Hearing that, my only regret was misjudging the kind of people they were. I drank myself into a gastric hemorrhage for that project. I thought Jason would handle the follow-up. Instead, He stole all the credit. The rest of the team looked at me with disdain. Having bought into the false narrative that I was just jealous and petty, I sneered. That project, you don't know. The partner company has already decided to terminate the contract. Chapter 4. What? How is that even possible? Everyone looked at each other in disbelief, their shocked voices rising one after another. You're lying. Jason looked completely flustered, at a loss. That project's bonus was at least 6 figures. How could a cooked duck just fly away like that? Susanna froze for a second, then quickly reacted, storming up to me, visibly angry. Marco, stop messing around. You're just jealous that Jason landed the project. Do you really have to joke like this? After she spoke, Jason, who had looked a bit panicked, calmed down, his eyes full of mockery. Marco, quit your little tricks. I get it, you're drooling over the project bonus. Fine, I'll give you a cut. Just stop with the games, saying the project got cancelled, and then you'll probably turn around and say you salvaged it yourself. We're not idiots, you know. After that, the office burst into laughter. They all looked at me with a mix of ridicule and pity, like I'd been driven insane by my own jealousy. I pulled out the termination agreement and handed it to them. They're accusing our company of lacking integrity. If you really want to know what's going on, you should probably ask Jason. Then I looked at Susanna with a calm expression. Susanna, maybe it's time we sort out our own matters while we're at it. Susanna's expression stiffened. She snapped coldly. What matters? Marco, stop being unreasonable. This is a workplace, not your stage to show off. You've already been suspended. Just pack your stuff and go home. We had been together for 10 years at this company, and no one had ever known about our relationship. After Jason joined, everyone just assumed Susanna was with him. I'd overheard co-workers gossip about how perfect they looked together, like a golden couple. Burning with jealousy, I once clung to Susanna at home, begging her to go public with our relationship. But she coaxed me with, Marco, people will gossip if we have an office romance. Relax. Jason's just a colleague. You're my real husband. Just bear with it a little longer. Okay, let me make it up to you. That night, she was passionate like a temptress, and I eventually let it go. Even when rumors popped up again, her words filled my mind, and I never took them seriously. Turns out, I was the only one who had been left in the dark. The spectators in the office now turned into critics. Marco, you've been a parasite in this company for years, just leeching off Chairman Lin's connections with zero contribution, and now you're even trying to use your ties with the chairman as leverage. You're beyond help. How does someone like you even exist? What a mistake. Jason looked at me, smug satisfaction all over his face. Susanna didn't look at me, but she stood firmly by Jason's side. I swallowed the last bit of disappointment in my heart and pulled out a document from my briefcase, tossing it toward Susanna. Susanna, you used me to climb the ladder for years, and now you're just tossing me aside. She didn't catch it. The papers fluttered to the ground like falling leaves. A few pages landed near a curious coworker's feet. They picked them up, read the content, and froze. Chairman Lin was actually a poor student sponsored by the Law family. Wait, Chairman Lin and Marco Law are married, so Jason is the homewrecker? Gasps and stunned murmurs rippled across the office. Susanna finally couldn't keep up the act. What are you talking about? She snatched the document and, when she saw her own name and photo on the massive sponsorship application form, staggered in shock. For so many years, she had hidden her true identity perfectly. Everyone believed she was the rich heiress of an overseas family, sitting on millions in assets, and that she'd chosen to build her career from scratch, creating her own empire step by step. But it turned out, it was all thanks to someone else. In that instant, the carefully crafted illusion Susanna had spent years building came crashing down. Chapter 5. How shameless. Oh my God, they even had sex in the break room. That's disgusting. I can't even look at the break room the same way anymore. Susanna climbed up by hooking up with President Law, and Jason climbed up by hooking up with Susanna, and now he's trying to outdo her. Groups of co-workers stood around holding the documents, still gossiping away. Jason suddenly snatched the papers from their hands and shouted angrily. Stop looking. None of this is true. Marco faked all of it. Marco, you're so petty, now you're trying to ruin us with this crap. But in the face of photos and cold hard facts, his words sounded weak and pathetic. I pulled out the divorce agreement from the file and walked step by step toward Susanna, whose face had gone ghostly pale. Susanna, sign it. No, no, Marco, please. I wasn't thinking straight. It was Jason. He seduced me. Give me one more chance, please. I don't want a divorce. Don't you remember? We fought so hard to be together. Susanna clung tightly to my hand, her eyes full of desperation, trying to awaken the love I once had for her. Thinking back, I realized how foolish I had been. I had always known my family sponsored 3 underprivileged students, but I first met Susanna in college. We were in the same major. I spent my days playing basketball, while she was nowhere to be seen. Curious about what she was always up to, I finally ran into her working part-time in a cafe. "Didn't someone sponsor you to go to school? Why work so hard?" She froze for a second, then smiled gently. "But I can't keep reaching out my hand for money forever." After that, I started observing her more closely and found out that, besides classes and the cafe, she had 2 other part-time jobs. Even so, her final grades were among the best. That's when I became truly interested in her. I tried to ask her indirectly why she pushed herself so hard, but she never answered. Later, I found out her mother was sick back home, and they had no money for treatment. I began pursuing her like crazy, even tried giving her money, but she insisted on writing IOUs, saying that even if we were dating, she couldn't spend my money without earning it. I was completely enchanted by her. I thought, so girls like this still exist, so pure, so kind, so resilient. Our relationship was steady all throughout college, and we got married right after graduation. Later, we even started a business together. I knew how competitive she was, so I tried my best to protect her, be the man behind her success. But I never realized that, to her, everything I did was just something she took for granted. Snapping back to the present, I forced myself to swallow the sorrow in my chest. That girl I once knew, there was nothing left of her in this woman standing in front of me. "Susanna, I gave you a chance. Sign it." I tossed the pen in front of her. Susanna collapsed to the ground. Chapter 6. As I walked out with the divorce agreement in hand, a luxury car was parked at the company entrance. Miriam was leaning against the car, wearing sunglasses. The moment she saw me, she whistled. Not even a shred of ladylike restraint. So, was that little surprise useful? She was talking about the stack of documents I had just thrown at Susanna in the office. She had given them to me last night. Miriam had been investigating this for a long time, and she'd tried countless times to get them to me, but I hadn't even glanced at them. I tore them up on the spot. Back then, I still firmly believed in Susanna's love for me. Susanna would never betray me. "Stop bringing me this baseless garbage. I'm not going to believe any of it." I was so resolute then. I still remember the hurt in Miriam's eyes. I thought she'd give up after that. I never expected her to keep going. Just like how she had loved me persistently for 10 years. I looked down. "Yeah, it was useful. Are you heartbroken? I told you a long time ago, Susanna wasn't the one for you." "I am." Miriam leaned in close, smiling playfully as she grabbed my hand. "So when are you and Susanna finalizing the divorce?" I was just about to respond when Susanna suddenly burst out of the building. She saw Miriam holding my hand and instantly exploded. "Oh, Marco. So this is why you were so eager to divorce me, for this little slut. Marco, how dare you betray me? Tell me, how long have you two been sneaking around?" She lost it and lunged toward Miriam to hit her. Just as her slap was about to land, I caught her wrist midair and flung her to the ground. I stepped in front of Miriam and sighed, exhausted. "Susanna, haven't you caused enough of a scene? Can't you see by now? Everything that's happened, you brought it on yourself." Susanna sat on the ground, stunned, mumbling. "You hit me, Marco. You hit me over this whore. Do you have no soul? I've been with you for 10 years. And now you're divorcing me for her." She tried to get up again, thinking she had found something to use against me. "Marco, you owe me an explanation." I looked at her, completely hysterical, and couldn't help but laugh. "Susanna, you seriously have the nerve to accuse me of cheating?" Jason was already making himself at home in my apartment. He even left his underwear on my bed. Susanna froze, stunned. She was about to speak when a blur passed me. Miriam stepped up quickly, sat right down on Susanna, and slapped her across the face. "Susanna, you've really got no shame. I was gonna let you keep some dignity for Marco's sake, but you really had to push it." Before Susanna could react, another slap landed, loud and sharp. The crisp sound of the blows echoed at the company entrance. Everyone passing by could clearly see what was happening. I couldn't help but chuckle at Miriam's fiery attempt to defend me. I stepped forward and gently pulled her by the arm. She looked back at me, still fuming, and asked, "What, you're still taking her side?" I pulled her into my arms, speaking softly by her ear. "That's enough." The CEO of Leo Corporation brawling with our president's wife in front of the company. "It wouldn't look good if anyone saw you like this." Miriam instantly quieted down, glancing around nervously. She quickly buried her face in my chest. "All right, let's get out of here." I chuckled again, watching her as I led her into the car. The vehicle sped away, and in the rearview mirror, I saw Susanna, hair a complete mess, scrambling to her feet, as if still trying to chase after us. Chapter 7. I forced down all the lingering melancholy in my chest. "Susanna, it's over between us." Once we got into the car, Miriam was unusually quiet. She kept fiddling with her phone. At a red light, I leaned over and glanced at her screen. She was transferring images and video clips. Once she was done, she finally told me. I still wasn't satisfied. So I uploaded all her cheating videos online. I won't curse her myself, I'll let the internet do it for me. Looking at her childish vindictiveness, I couldn't help but laugh genuinely. I reached out and gently smoothed her hair. You're still the same as you used to be. She suddenly grabbed my hand, keeping it pressed to the side of her face. She looked up at me. This girl, usually full of pride and fire, now had eyes full of cautious tenderness. So, would you still like me like this? Before I could answer, she boldly leaned in and kissed me on the lips. I froze. In that instant, she had already wrapped her arms around my neck and kissed me deeper. Lost in the moment, I closed my eyes, sighing softly, surrendering to her. Like her, how could I not? Miriam and I had known each other since we were kids. We were childhood sweethearts. Our families lived next door. Back then, we were always fighting. She was like a tomboy. We'd constantly argue and scuffle over toys. But even though she bullied me herself, she would never let anyone else touch me. In elementary school, a classmate once snatched a book I had just bought. I was about to get angry, but little Miriam didn't hesitate. She kicked the guy hard, sent him flying, and then she declared, loud and proud, "Do you know who you're messing with? He's under my protection." From that day on, everyone knew I was hers to guard. Later, disaster struck her family. Their company went bankrupt. Her father couldn't take the blow and died of a heart attack. Her mother, crying, jumped off a building to follow him in death. Just starting middle school, Miriam became an orphan. From a millionaire heiress, she turned overnight into a poor scholarship student. We were the ones who sponsored her, but she never showed the slightest trace of sorrow or humiliation. By the time we entered high school and those first sparks of teenage feelings started to appear, her way of always shouting, "I'm protecting you," slowly turned into, "I'm going to marry you." But me, back then I was timid and cowardly. I didn't dare accept her feelings. In college, I started dating Susanna, and completely pushed Miriam out of my life. Who would have thought, her love, across 10 long years, remained just as fierce and sincere, so intense, it melted my heart. Chapter 8. Miriam suddenly sat up, casually wiping her lips. Then she gently tapped her finger on my lips, eyes seductive and gleaming. "In such a hurry? Let's save the rest for when we get home." Slightly flustered, I withdrew my hand from the slick warmth of her skin, catching the sparkle in Miriam's eyes. "Marco, I love you." The company had been founded by Susanna and me, but over the years, my quiet, unambitious attitude made everyone forget I even existed. Even Susanna, once she had all the power in her hands, seemed to forget that everything she had, I gave her. The next day, I called for a board meeting. Susanna and Jason were both present. They looked tired, worn. When Jason saw me there, he still couldn't resist the urge to mock me. "Marco, what are you doing here at such a serious meeting? Weren't you already suspended? And you're just a VP, don't think you even qualify to attend." The others exchanged glances, and surprisingly, agreed with him. "Board meetings are for general managers and above. Vice President Law, I'm afraid you'll have to step out." Susanna said nothing, simply looked at me with a faint expression, as if to say, "So what if you still hold the majority of shares? No one acknowledges your authority." I smiled slightly, pulled out the chairman's chair, and sat down. "I'm the one who called this meeting. Why would I be the one to leave?" The board members were stunned. 4 years, the company had been run entirely by Susanna. The chairman had never shown up. All they knew was that the chairman wasn't interested in managing the company and had left everything in Susanna's hands. Susanna suddenly shot to her feet. "Marco, what are you trying to do?" She hadn't expected that after I publicly revealed our relationship yesterday, I'd reveal this today too. "What am I trying to do?" I smiled faintly at her. "Why, to fire you, of course." Then I turned to the person next to her, Jason, who was just about to erupt in anger. "And you too, Marco, you really think you're some big shot now? You're firing me? What gives you that right?" Jason scoffed, full of contempt. "Susanna is the vice chair. What are you? This is ridiculous." Just as he finished, I raised a hand to the secretary. Understanding the cue, she immediately stepped forward and pulled out a long sealed appointment letter. "Mr. Law is our chairman," she announced. "Of course he has that right." Her words hit like a thunderclap. The room instantly erupted in chaos. For over a decade since Lian Corporation was founded, the identity of the chairman had been a complete mystery. No one ever imagined he had been right beside them all along. "Escort them out," I said coldly, "and blacklist them, never to be hired again." The security guard stepped forward to remove them from the boardroom. That's when Susanna finally snapped. "You can't fire me. Marco, I gave this company my blood, sweat, and tears for over 10 years, and this is how you repay me. You heartless bastard." She shouted her accusations, utterly hysterical, and I noticed the way the other board members began to exchange glances, their expressions shifting. I sneered. "Susanna, all these years, how do you think you landed those projects and rose to the position of CEO? Don't you know whose support that was?" Everything you had, I gave you. As the words landed, Susanna's face drained of color. She no longer had the strength to resist as she was led away. After wrapping up company matters, I returned home, and was surprised to see the lights on. I froze. I'd long forgotten what it felt like to have someone waiting for me at home. After marrying Susanna, she had buried herself in her work. I had become the one waiting up each night. Even then, I'd return to a home with no lights left on for me. What are you standing there for? Go wash up and eat. Come try my cooking. Seeing me frozen at the door, Miriam came out from the kitchen, proudly holding a plate of food. I changed my shoes and stepped forward to hug her, burying my face in the curve of her neck. Wife, you're amazing. She blushed a little, but still teased boldly. There's more amazing stuff coming tonight, you'll see. In the 10 years I was married to Susanna, we never had children. She didn't want any. Eventually, even the intimacy in our marriage disappeared. Now, just 3 months into marriage with Miriam, she was already pregnant. A child of our own. Susanna and Jason, after being fired, were blacklisted across the entire industry. Susanna left the marriage with nothing. No property, no savings. She was forced to live in a shabby rental with Jason. They scraped by doing odd jobs, just to survive. Jason, no longer the flattering boyfriend he once pretended to be, turned abusive, beating and yelling at her constantly. And so, they spent the rest of their lives in a storm of regret and bitterness. But that no longer mattered. What mattered was, babe, I want strawberries. Did you wash them yet? Hearing my wife's completely unfiltered voice from the other room, I chuckled. I grabbed the bowl of fruit, coming. What mattered was, I had finally found the happiness that truly belonged to me.